Hello, one and all. My name is Ryan Bruce. My friends call me Fluff. And today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we check out a new plugin, the Shure Level-Loc from Korneff Audio. The Shure Level-Loc is a vintage piece of kit that I think has been a secret weapon for a lot of audio nerds out there. Well, the gentleman himself, Dan Korneff, has given us basically a perfect digital recreation for us mortals to use in the officially licensed and collab Shure Level-Loc plugin from Korneff Audio. And before we go any further, this is not a sponsored video. Dan asked me if I wanted to check out the plugin. I am making this video because I think this plugin is awesome. All thoughts and opinions are mine. So the Shure Level-Loc was a compressor. It's basically a brick wall limiter that was around in the 1960s. And it's pretty interesting because it's actually a mic level compressor, not a line level compressor. So normally when we're using outboard gear, we would plug a microphone into a preamp and then into a compressor. Not so with the Level-Loc. This was meant for simple use, simple situations, not professional, mind you, but these were made, for college auditoriums, public address situations, things like that. So this was a mic level compressor that was basically a brick wall limiter. I believe its ratio was like 100:1. And basically the 3-position switch on the front is a threshold control, and you had your input level. And that's basically it. What it produces is just this fantastic grit and dirt that can be used in a lot of applications. And Dan Korneff has taken his Level-Loc, partnered with Tchad Blake, and then partnered with Shure, yes, Shure microphones, to bring you an official digital iteration of the Shure Level-Loc. Okay, so let's check out the Shure Level-Loc from Korneff Audio. This plugin it's try not to think about it too much. This is really indicative of something, in my opinion, in using this for several different things that we'll cover in just a second, of you're doing whatever sounds cool. That's really at the heart of this plugin. There's so many different things that you can do with this plugin. Just do whatever sounds cool, man. It's all good. So on the front panel, it's actually pretty simple. We have an input level, and we basically have a distance selector. This is basically the threshold, a relabeled threshold for closer or further away. We have the bypass. Now I want to note that if you put this into bypass, you are still going through the Level-Loc's transformers if you want some saturation, but it's bypassing the compressor circuit. Down here we have pre-filters, we have post-filters, and the overall output amplifier. On the bottom here, like with most Korneff plugins, this is where all the biz happens. We have the wet, dry, input and output, oversampling, help, bug reporting, etc., etc. Now, input select, microphone or line level. Very cool, because as we just talked about, the original was mic level, was not line level. Also, sidechain, stereo dual mono, sidechain, high pass filter, on or off. If we want this on, we also have some additional controls over the frequency and gain. For right now, we're going to turn that off. Now, up here on the right, we have 3 different models, which is pretty cool. These first 2 are based on are copies of Tchad Blake's units, and then we have Dan's actual unit that he owns himself. Up here, we have the actual wave meters, which we will see in just a second. If we click on the Korneff badge, we go into the unit and get all nerdy. Input impedance, high, low, microphone load, different ohms. These are basically going to simulate, I think 150s, like an SM57. 300 ohms going to be like a ribbon microphone. Again, do what sounds cool, right? Don't get too hung up on actual ratings and all that kind of stuff. Output impedance, high and low. Output select, microphone or auxiliary input, or output, excuse me. If you switch to auxiliary, notice your output amplifier goes away. Release time, This is a very, very fast release. You can mess with the different values and kind of fine tune your release time. Again, no matter what, it's pretty fast. And then lastly, we have the power supply. We have an outlet as if you were plugged into the wall, or battery power, and then you can starve the voltage. And it kind of gives that sputtering, dying, like kind of like what people used to do with the fuzz faces. It's pretty wild. Enough of my yapping. Let's hear this thing, shall we? So I'm in Pro Tools. This mix from a band called The Undertaking. This song is called Touch Dirt that I mixed. You can check it out down below in the description. I will link to this song if you'd like to hear it and go enjoy it on Spotify or wherever you listen to music. Let's listen to the song first, and then I'm gonna show you some things that I used the Level-Loc on. You get the idea. Super cool. The first instance I want to show you is I used the Level-Loc on the main snare track. And I'm using this as a pseudo parallel compression inline because there's the wet dry knob. So we can actually do some parallel processing without having to create like an auxiliary input or something like that. So I'm going to solo the snare. Let's hear the snare by itself. Notice, again, I have the dry wet ratio to 16%. I'm just blending in just a little bit because a little is all I need for real. These are my settings underneath that I came up with. I liked the battery sound. The tonality changes a little bit. Sputtering this out didn't really do me much since it's a snare track. However, we're gonna play just the isolated snare by itself. I'm gonna turn this off into bypass, turn it on, and then we're gonna do the same thing, just hearing just the full kit. Here's just the snare drum. Now you can hear some of the bleed that's getting past the gates on for the kick. Not too concerned about that in the context. It doesn't really matter, especially when it's that low. However, what the Level-Loc is adding is a lot of compression, a lot of leveling, go figure, and a lot of top end, some saturation. It's adding that real nice kind of top end that I like in my snare, especially for a high energy track like this. Now, let's listen to the entire kit. I'm gonna save solo these. Here is the full drum kit in context, and then you will see me bypass the Level-Loc on and off. Just adding the snappiness to the snare. I love how this sounds on the snare. Again, a little will go a very, very long way. Let's move on to the room mics. Okay, so keeping in the theme of drums, Let's listen to the room track. Now, the room track was a single room microphone that I've artificially spread a little bit, and it lacked, honestly, it lacked energy. The mic itself. I wanted some saturation. I wanted to really grit it up. And to that extent, we are going to use, of course, the Level-Loc. Now, here is the isolated rooms by themselves. Level-Loc is bypassed. This is just how they sounded when I got them. And yes, they are a little quiet. As you'll see in just a second, we're gonna fix that. So I'm using Level-Loc to goose the input. I am at a 37% wet dry mix. Underneath the hood, I am on the battery, I am starving the voltage. I'm about half voltage here, 4.67 volts, right? So I'm adding a lot of breakup. Check this out. You can add how it's just kind of, you can hear how it's kind of filling out the imaging of the drum kit itself. And it takes it from kind of a tight little, I don't know, there's just not much energy happening in the center to it kind of opening up and really kind of sounding like a proper room. Fantastic use for Level-Loc. Let's move on to something else. Now it's time to focus on the main vocal. Now, being basically a brick wall limiter, I used the Level-Loc on Austin, the singer's vocal. Basically, I came in and EQ'd, and then I used the Level-Loc. This is pretty good. Let's check this out. I have just the main vocal soloed. Let's go ahead and turn this off. Here's how it sounds, and this was compressed on the way in when he tracked. However, not like this.
You left before I could say it all! Don't you know that life's not fair? You left before I could say it all! Don't you know that life's not fair? Don't cry victory! You haven't learned anything yet! Don't try to live for me! Attribute significance!
The Level-Loc has made the vocal super in your face, which is completely appropriate for this kind of song. I actually loved this so much that I ended up using it on all of the auxiliary vocals as well. I used the Level-Loc in different formats. I used Tchad Blake's on both of these, they're called Echoes.
Let me say it all! Life's not fair!
Now notice there's no parallel compression, or there's no parallel processing on these auxiliary tracks, right? I'm at 100%. I am way hot on the input level, and I have the distance selector over all the way to the right. Like, I'm blasting this thing. Also, here are my settings. Underneath, full voltage on the battery. I like the battery setting a lot for this thing. It's really, really cool. But I'm using this on literally everything. Now, the last thing I want to show you guys is the clean vocals, because yes, we do have clean vocals every once in a while on the channel. So again, I'm using Level-Loc for, there's a center vocal and there's a left and right supporting vocal for this. So let's listen to this in context.
Significance. Don't cry victory. You'll learn it.
Let's hear those soloed.
Don't cry victory.
Now I am crushing these vocals. Sounds so good though. Again, I'm not parallel processing these. I am full wet. I am mic level in. Here are my settings underneath.
Don't cry victory.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the waveforms as well.
Don't cry victory. Don't try to live for me. No reflection like before. No reflection like before. No reflection like before. No reflection like before. You left before I could say it all. Don't you know that life's not fair? You left before I could say goodbye.
And that is the Shure Level-Loc plugin from Korneff Audio. So what do I think? This is so much fun. I mean, this is something that I think is very indicative of just do what sounds cool, all right? Don't get too hung up on any one feature. Literally, the fun for me is throwing it on something and seeing if it works. Just start dialing and you will come up with all sorts of very, very cool uses for the Shure Level-Loc. Shout out to Dan Korneff. Shout out to Tchad Blake. Shout out to Shure for making this super, super legit. I will link down below in the description if you'd like to know more about the Shure Level-Loc and all things Korneff Audio. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.